invite people relevant to the space. And today, pretty glad to have two cool people to join me for this cool topic. And yeah, so I will just make a small introduction of them after making an introduction of what we are going to talk about and in which order. And in the same times, we will keep some time for the Q&A sessions. And please, for that, use the chat. And unfortunately, you can't talk this meetup, otherwise it's a nightmare. So please use the chat. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy to ask any questions. That's the purpose of those meetups. And let's go right into it. So the first, my first guest is Leo Nguyen for Nicoverse, from Nicoverse. So Leo has a master's in economic and strategy in Aalto University in Finland. His professional backgrounds is from the management consulting, the M&A, and the venture capital side. And he built Nicoverse to deliver sustainable play-to-earn economic models. So he's going to talk about it a bit with us today. So welcome, Leo. And on the second, yeah, thank you. And on the second side, Mr. David Ledesma. So he's an early crypto adopter, one of the OGs. Invested first in Bitcoin in 2015. He founded then MBA Bull, and you can pronounce it the way you want after that, David. He has a YouTube channel with over 16 million views, and he's an adjunct instructor at Chulalongkorn University. And he's going to help us understanding the concepts of NFT, play to earn, and the metaverse. And yeah, welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for taking the time. I know you are both busy, so we really appreciate it. So the summary of this meetup, first part, a 101 about what is NFT, what are NFTs, what is the metaverse, how does play to earn works. And on the second part is going to be more related to gaming. And on the last one, we're going to talk about the metaverse, what is it, and how it might change our lives in the future. So let's go right into it. Leo, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Right. So thank you for the introduction earlier. It was very detailed. So I will jump in right into introducing how I started in cryptos. Right. So my first exposure in blockchains and crypto was actually through Kitties in 2017, when me and my friends were breeding these cute little cats. And at the time, what I really captivated me was the ability for people to now truly own digital asset by having an undeniable verification method, that is blockchains, right? And then during my time in the venture capital world, I got exposed to a lot of other applications of blockchain technologies, such as decentralized finance, decentralized identities, and become really engaged in the space. So me and my co-founder, who worked with me previously at the funds, actually started small communities to talk about and discuss blockchains and crypto investments. And earlier this year, we see that the adoption rate as well as the improvement in technologies have been really start building in the space. And so we left the VC world to create Nicoverse. And a little bit about Nicoverse. Nicoverse is a massive multiplayer online role-playing game that is built using Solana blockchains. So it is also the name of the in-game metaverse, in which people can basically freely roam around and choose how they want to interact in the games. For example, they can battle, they can harvest resources, they can craft items and form guilds. And with that, we really want to deliver the goal of creating an open economy inside the metaverse. So the entire economics activities within.
All right. Thanks a lot, Leo, for the introduction. And David, you want to say a couple of words about yourself and how you've been into blockchain for quite some time?
Yeah. Hi, guys. So I'm David, and I'm very much like many of you guys in the sense that I'm not a techie. I'm not an NFT freak. I'm not deep into cryptocurrency. I'm simply an investor and a professor at the same time. But I was fortunate. I got into Bitcoin in July 2015. And ever since then, I've been very interested in cryptocurrency. So what really got me sold on the Bitcoin concept at that time was that is that despite all of there was this website called 99 Bitcoins, like a Bitcoin obituaries, which showed all of the headlines of the mainstream media declaring Bitcoin as dead. And despite that, it still kept on surviving and becoming bigger. So I said, this is it. For sure, this is going to become big. So that's when I bought my Bitcoins. And from there, if you guys remember, we all got those who were in Bitcoin in 2015, 2016, we got an airdrop not an airdrop, a free Bitcoin. Yeah, kind of like an airdrop of Bitcoin Cash. I sold half of that and I started buying all sorts of altcoins on that. And from that, there were some, we had I got more profits and started buying even more different altcoins, and some of them have grown, etc. I've continued to do that to this day. But I'm not a coder. I'm not a tech guy. I'm not even an expert in NFTs and Metaverse, believe it or not. So what am I doing here? How am I going to, teach you guys, if you're a beginner, how am I going to teach you about the NFT and the Metaverse? Because while I'm not an expert at NFT and Metaverse, I am an expert in explaining complex things in a very simplified way. And that's the reason for the success of my YouTube channel. I don't know if any of you guys have taken your MBA or even your bachelor in finance. And my YouTube channel is mbabullshit.com. That's not a joke. That's really the name. Now I've transitioned it to a better name, to a more polite name, mbabull.com. But basically it's still well known as mbabullshit.com. And I have 130,000 subscribers and 16 million video views. And what the success of the channel is explaining complex financial concepts in a simplified way. So today I'm going to try my best to explain the complex concept of NFT and Metaverse in a very simplified way. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks a lot, David. And maybe I will take your word right into it. So, I understand that some of you joining those meetups are tech people, you know exactly what we are talking about, but it's important to start with the basic for the newcomers and people who would like to understand what are those NFTs and why are we talking about it? What changed in 2021 compared to the past 2 years? The NFTs are not new. Non-fungible tokens are not new. But David, maybe you can tell us what is an NFT and how it became so popular this year.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. I think, Maxine, you have to allow screen share. Yeah.
You should be fine now.
Yeah. All right. So, and this sounds long, but trust me, I made it really, really fast. It's lots of slides, but I'm going to be like 10 seconds per slide. And some slides will be like 10 seconds. So I'm talking about, well, basically what I talk about as a professor is the convergence, because I'm actually a professor in digital marketing and digital entrepreneurship. So how is that connected to NFTs and the Metaverse? It's because I talk about the convergence of social media, e-commerce, marketing, art, cryptocurrency, NFTs, all coming together in the Metaverse. So who is this talk for? This is for beginners and non-techies like me. Well, I'm not a beginner, but I'm a non-techie. But this is if you're already an expert in NFTs, if you're already an expert in cryptocurrencies, this talk is for you because it teaches us how to explain it to your newbie friends and to your non-tech friends. Because to be honest with you, they are very confused. Even mainstream veteran reporters from New York Times obviously don't know what it is when they report on it. Okay, so just as a summary, number one, surprise, technically NFTs are not actually images or JPEGs or artworks. Okay, number two, NFTs, how are they then related to images? How can the owner of an NFT use it? Okay, how are NFTs connected to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Sand, Mana? Actually, I just put Bitcoin there because most of the newbies, the only cryptocurrency they know is Bitcoin. But NFTs are not really that connected to Bitcoin. But anyway, how to make money with NFTs, different ways to make money with NFTs, how NFTs might be a huge part of social media and e-commerce in the near future in the Metaverse. What is the Metaverse? Examples of the Metaverse. How is the Metaverse possibly the future of social media? How is it connected to e-commerce and digital marketing? How are NFTs a big part of the Metaverse? And how to earn money in the Metaverses today. So first of all, let's start with an example of some NFTs, all right? So let me stop sharing this first and then go straight to
You bought one of the first CryptoPunks and you want to show it to us?
No, I didn't. I'm not like I said, I'm not big into NFTs. I have like 2 or 3 maybe. But these are examples of NFTs. As you can see, they look like images, and they are images in a way, but they're not exactly. So this is an example of a semi-successful, not a very big, not a very big project, but not bad. You see, So these are images which you can buy in the secondary market on OpenSea. So these are images, but they are also NFTs. So to continue on with that, let's go back here. So that's an example of the NFT. Now here's the point of confusion. Technically, these are not actually artworks or JPEG. So it's very ignorant or very wrong when you see mainstream media reporters make a report like this. JPEG file sells for $69 million. Okay, no, a JPEG file was not sold for $69 million. Okay, an NFT was sold for $69 million. So what are they? So to understand NFTs, I want you guys to first forget about NFTs, digital stuff, anything digital. Forget about cryptocurrencies, forget about blockchain, forget about all these things that might confuse you. Think about a house or a property. How do you prove that you own it? You probably have some kind of certificate or land title, and in this case, it's signed by a person from the government. Okay, and to sell the house, you don't sell, you don't just transfer the house. You get a cash or a check, and you give this paper certificate, right, to the new owner, and now he owns the house or she owns the house. What if it's an artwork? How do you prove that you own it? Again, you might have some kind of certificate, and in this case, it might be signed by witnesses to certify that you made it yourself, you painted it yourself, or signed by an organization or members of an organization. To sell the painting, you get cash from the buyer and you give the paper certificate to the new owner. In the case of a digital artwork, or in our case, let's say in the example I showed you earlier, the long necky ladies, how do you prove that you own it? In this case, it is linked to an NFT, a token on the blockchain. Don't be so worried about the technical stuff first. Let's just say it's a digital certificate. And this digital non-fungible token, this token on the blockchain represents a digital certificate of ownership. And in this case, it is signed digitally by all the members of the Ethereum or other blockchain. In the case of Leo, to be the Solana blockchain. So never mind the tech part for now. For now, that's all we have to think about. It is signed digitally instead of being signed by a government person or by members of an organization. It's signed by the other members of that blockchain. And to sell the digital artwork, you trade with a buyer on this blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, and you get Ether cryptocurrency in exchange for that. And then the NFT, the token, is automatically transferred to the other person's wallet. So it's very similar to this. Okay, it's not really that much different from this. See, so that shows you that NFT is not just a JPEG file that you can right click and save. So that's where the confusion is. All right, to avoid confusion, we have to understand the difference between the technical meaning of NFT and the slang meaning of NFT. So the first case, I sold my 8 Kids NFT, that's this one here, for $1,000. Sentence number 1. Sentence number 2, that's a cute 8 Kids NFT.
Hey, David, I'm not sure we see the right screen. We're still on the first page number 5. Yeah, is it the page number 5? Yeah, correct. It's moving correctly. Yep, go ahead.
No, that's not where I was. I was here already. So it means my screen was not. Are you here?
Yeah, all good. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Did you see all of this?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You saw this?
No, it's not working properly. But
okay. So
just go ahead and.
Anyway, so in a house, it's represented by a paper certificate signed by a government official to prove your ownership. You transfer the paper to transfer the ownership of the house, and you get cash. All right. Are you still seeing this? Are you seeing a painting right now?
No, I think it's not working. But go ahead. It's all right.
You know what? Let's just try it. Like, can you see this?
Yep.
So I think it's the slideshow which is causing it to not work. Never mind. Let's do it without the slideshow.
Go ahead.
All right. So in the case of the house, all right, it's represented by a piece of paper. It's represented by a piece of paper which says you own the house. The paper is signed by government officials, okay? If it's a painting, you might have another certificate of ownership signed by members of an organization. What if it's a case of digital art? The case of digital art, it could be, the ownership could be evidenced by also a certificate, but it's a digital certificate. And instead of the certificate being signed by ordinary people, or it's signed digitally by the members of the Ethereum or other blockchain. All right. So to avoid confusion, all right, we have to understand the difference between the technical meaning of NFTs and the slang meaning of NFTs. So in this first sentence over here, 8 kids NFT for $1,000. All right.
Yep.
The second sentence, that's a cute 8 kids NFT. So in the first and second sentences above, do they have the same meaning? This one here and this one here? And the answer is no. Okay, the answer is no. Because in the first sentence, I sold my 8 kids NFT for $1,000. We're talking about this NFT, this certificate of ownership. But when we say that's a cute NFT, then we are talking about the JPEG that is linked to this. So these are two different meanings of NFT, but they're very connected. So the first is a technical meaning. The second is more like a slang meaning. So it's important to understand that difference so that we don't get confused and we don't end up thinking that a JPEG file was sold for $169 million. And you don't end up with people saying, that's so crazy. Why will I pay $1 million for an NFT? I can just right click and save it. Because an NFT is not,
Just to recap, what you meant is that an NFT is basically a certificate proving the ownership of the picture of the art itself, right?
Correct. Right. So the next question, of course, is how can an owner of an NFT, how can an owner of an NFT, maybe I should close, how can an owner of NFT use it? Where does the value come from? Well, for that, we have to divide the NFT into two basic classifications. One is, well, there are many classifications, but to simplify it, these two. Number one, do you have commercial rights? If you own an NFT, right, do you have commercial rights, like in the case of Bored Ape Yacht Club? Number two, do you not have commercial rights, like in the case of a CryptoPub over here, all right? So if you have commercial rights, it's very easy to see where the tangible value comes from. Like in this case over here, I hope you can see my screen.
Yep.
In the case of Bored Ape Yacht Club over here, Adidas went into partnership not only with the creator of Bored Ape Yacht Club, they went into partnership with G-Money. G-Money here is not a company, it's a person. And this person owns individual NFTs, individual images here. And Adidas, presumably, I don't know the details of the contract, presumably wants to use some of these images, and they will pay G-Money so that they can use his images in their Adidas marketing campaign. So just from that alone, we can see where the value of the NFT comes from. All right,
but that's already a lot of information to unfold, and thanks David for the presentation. People generally confuse and don't really understand where the value of NFT comes from. Maybe I turn down to Leo, and I would like to just have his take on the NFTs and maybe how for him the NFTs are related to the gaming industry.
Right. Mm-hmm. So just as David mentions, NFT is basically the proof of the certificate of ownership for digital assets. And that is really important when you implement a game and want the players to actually own the asset inside the games. So NFT is the mechanism in which you allow people to truly own the asset in the games, right? With traditional games, player can purchase asset, but their asset actually lies in the servers of the game developers. And once the server is down, the game is down, they lose the asset. It's very different with NFTs. The NFTs actually stay in the future. We envision that these assets can be used in multiple environments, not just inside one game, but can be bridged to another games. And that is the applications of NFTs for gaming.
So I have a question for you. Maybe I challenge you on this part. Is that, let's say that I go to a Nicoverse game and I own an NFT. How can I use it in another game? Maybe not Axie Infinity because it's not on the same blockchain, but how my NFT will be on another game?
Right, so it's actually very good questions. At this moment, the developer have to work together to enable the NFTs asset to be bridged to another games. When I was on AMA with another project called Knife Spoon and Fork the other day, they want to create a metaverse in which they can partner with other games to allow them to bring other projects NFT inside the game. And that's, I think, is the future where you own an NFTs. You cannot only play or use it inside just one metaverse, but multiple ones.
Okay, so that's like in the movie Ready Player One, right?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, thanks for the introduction and to the NFTs in the gaming industries. And I have a question for both of you. Maybe because you've been in the crypto space for quite some time, but I'm just challenging you here. I'm not putting in, I'm not challenging the NFT world, but in 2017, I saw the ICO craze. People were thinking that ICOs would be changing the games in fundraising and so on. It's not really the case today, still not, but are NFTs the ICOs of 2021? Anybody wants to reply to this one?
Well, actually, me, and I think my friends are who are here. Some of my friends who I invited are in the crypto industry as well. They might disagree with me in saying that it could be. They might get angry at me. Like Pets, I think I invited. I might use him as an example later, who's heavily invested. Well, but he sells at the right time, it seems to be. But I think it very well could be. You know, NFTs could collapse. Could. I'm not saying it will. Don't get angry at me, the NFT investors here. It could absolutely collapse the same way ICOs, the shitcoin craze collapsed in 2018. I mean, shitcoin craze was 2016, 2017. I remember that, and then majority of them collapsed and never came back. It could happen. We won't know until it actually happens.
Leo, you have a point on that part?
Yeah, I think it's not about the utility of the NFT that matters, right? It's about the markets. With any asset, there's inflation, there's market movement, and that caused the collapse or bubble, I would say. So I strongly believe in the utility of NFTs and how it's changing the game industry and how it's changing the world. On the other hand, there's the financial part, and that is difficult to predict.
Okay, and maybe I stay with you, Leo, because I want to talk about Nicoverse. Can you introduce the company, the game, how it might be different from what's on the market today, if you don't mind?
Right. So I'll start introducing Nicoverse first. So a lot of you guys have been very familiar with massive multiplayer online games, right? Like Diablo, in a way, we want to build a massive multiplayer online game that is easy to get started, and but will be challenging to master. That's the exciting part, right? And so we started in a very kind of simple format like Pokemon, but we add a lot of elements to the game, such as the world explorations, item craftings, and then forming guilds. And players can freely roam around the world and choose how they want to interact with the games. So the game itself is pretty easy to get started, but there's a lot of layers and you can explore, and that's what makes the game exciting. And the differentiation that we are pushing forward is the open economy that we want to build inside the games, right? As you had mentioned early, in your introductions, we want the economy inside the game to be run entirely by players. So every resource in the game is harvested by the players, and from those resources, they can craft items and list on marketplace to be purchased by other players. So the entirety of the game economics activities is not driven by us. We will not sell any items, but all the players will transact with each other. And that allows for value being determined and created within the community.
Okay, quick question for a non-gamer like me. If I wanted to profit, I'm sorry, but if I wanted to profit off the Necoverse without actually being a gamer, can I buy, for example, like in my case, I was lucky I bought Sand more than a year ago, and it's up 11,000% or so. Sand cryptocurrency of the Sandbox Metaverse. So, but I'm not a player in Sand. So I mean, if I wanted to profit from your Metaverse, what could I do as a non-gamer?
Well, the game economics system is actually designed to benefit all stakeholders. We have asset holders, which are purchase of tokens, and then the NFTs. So you can actually purchase the token and NFTs, and with just like any other asset, if there's a lot of demand for the asset, then you can profit from it. So we released in this the total collections, the total supply of our first collection is 10,000 Neco, but it will gradually increase through player breeding inside the games. And so if the game gets more popular, there's a lot of demands for the in-game asset and the in-game tokens, and that's how you can profit from Necoverse.
And I think, Leo, you are touching on one very important part of this meetup, which is what we call play to earn, right?
Right.
So can you just make it like a very easy explanation? What is play to earn? What is this new thing that is changing the gaming industry?
Right. So to understand play to earn, it again comes back to NFT, right? Now you purchase an NFT, you own the asset. What can you do with it? So with play to earn games, we design economics rewards for the players who participate and invest their time playing the games. So we either through game mechanics, they can battle that give rewards, or in the case of Necoverse, they can be creative and be an entrepreneur inside the games, like buying and selling resources inside the games. That's how you can earn in Necoverse. And from every item inside the game is NFTs, right? And so you can sell these NFTs and you can earn from that, or you can do transactions within the game to earn, basically.
And I just played Axie. I'm not a gamer neither, but when you start Axie Infinity, basically you have to kind of purchase, right, at the beginning. So is it the same kind in Necoverse, and this is how players start?
Yeah, so to start in Necoverse, you actually need a minimum of 1 Neco characters. So you first need to purchase the NFT first.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And that's understandable. And so I will go just on the technical. So we understood what is play to earn. A lot of big games are doing that. I'm sure many people are familiar with it, but most of them are built on Ethereum today. And you choose to build on Solana blockchain. Can you explain the reasoning behind?
Right. So it ties very closely with how we design the game. Necoverse will be a very transaction-heavy game where you can each time you craft an item, each time you sell the item to another player, it's a transaction, right? And so we really need the user experience to be fast and low cost. And Solana offered that. Imagine if we are built on Ethereum, then a transaction would cost like $40 to just sell, for example, like an axe. Then it will not be very affordable, and the entry barrier to entry would be pretty high.
Yeah, you're right, and that's one of the main issues of the Ethereum networks today. And coming back, and sorry, I asked you a lot of questions on that part, but
no worries.
So let's say that I'm playing Necoverse and I will own Neco NFTs, right? And will I be able in the futures to basically use those in-games NFT to other games? This is part of your plan, or?
We have we are researching the augmented reality for our Negoverse characters. So you can, in the very near future, you can actually use augmented reality and see Negoverse through your mobiles, interacting with real world objects. And we're also open for collaborating with other Metaverse projects to bridge the models, the 3D models to other projects. So you guys can use the Nego characters to interact with other Metaverse, and that's the ultimate goal, and that's how we think the development of the Metaverse should be.
All right. So
let me ask one question that I'm sure a lot of members, participants here are itching to ask, but are mute for good reason, and that is, do you have a token that we can ape into right now? Maybe right now it's still a shit token, but we don't know, and we play him a lot. We have high hopes for him. Do you have any token right now that we can ape into it? And where can we buy it? What decentralized exchange or what?
Right. So unfortunately, our token is not out yet. But we'll have tokens, and we'll not only have one, but we have two. So to really make a game sustainable, we need to separate the governance tokens and then the in-game currencies. And so we have two tokens, one called Negoverse tokens, which is the governance tokens, short for NVS. And the other one is called Anima Spirit Gems, which will be the in-game currency.
Okay. And where can we find that? Sorry, Maxime. Where can we follow you so we can be early as soon as your tokens come out?
Right. So you guys can join our Discord. The link is discord.gg/Negoverse, or you can go to our website negoverse.net, and you can find all the information, including our white paper there.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry,
Discord.
No. I will just ask more general questions, because I believe that people who are really not familiar with gaming, there is something which is happening here. Today, you see people, especially in Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and South America, that actually are quitting their jobs to play games to earn money. It's a very structural social change, right? And just would like to have your take on that. I'm sure that today it's a bit of a bubble. Those things are new. People are the cryptocurrencies market are high. It makes sense today. It might continue, might not, but it's a big change in the way that people are interacting with blockchain. Just want to have your take on that, David. We can start, and then Leo, you can add something.
I'm sorry, you're asking me. Well, first,
yeah.
Before I forget, one question I would have for Leo is, as well as Axie Infinity, etc. They already do have, like Maxime just mentioned right now, they already have the network effects and all the players, etc. And you mentioned the barrier to entry. Okay, you use Solana to make the barrier of entry low, but that's not just creating a low entry barrier isn't enough to make people join. So how do you think you'd be able to get the people to actually join your metaverse? But anyway, first answer Maxime's question. I'm not really sure I'm the right person to answer that, but I absolutely know.
The reason I'm asking you is because you are a teacher as well. You have young students. You heard about it. So what do you see about it?
About the play to earn.
Yeah. The change that now people are actually quitting their jobs to do play to earn on blockchain.
Right. Well, I haven't observed that with my students. My students generally come from a very privileged background, so they're the type who have these big dreams, whatever they want to be founders rather than just players of whatever, not necessarily crypto founders or game founders, but absolutely. Even though I'm a professor or an instructor myself, I do tell my students that even though you're here getting a degree, you don't necessarily have to have a degree in order to make money. So if you're here to be educated, that's fine. But if you're here because you're hoping to make, to land a better job and get better pay, that's also okay. But you might find income elsewhere. So definitely, as these games in the metaverse grow and play to earn grows, and it's simple economics. Leo's an economist, right? It's simple economics. Once people start earning more money from playing, they absolutely are going to quit their jobs.
Leo,
yeah.
Leo, do you see that, and is it part as well of?
Right. I also think that play to earn is just at the very early stage right now. For example, people are only like earning through battling or just engaging in gaming activities. But in the future, once the metaverse is fully formed, there will be virtual business, and people can join the metaverse and working there. That's also a way of earnings, and these will be open up new horizon for business activities, new job careers, new kind of workings and communications. So obviously, this is just a start, and it's very exciting to see how the player innovations will go.
And I don't want to touch yet on the metaverse. I will take questions from the chats. Please don't hesitate to send it to us. The first one, it's a general one. I would like to ask you, Leo, as a question that, in your opinion, what do you think about those play to earn games where you don't need to start by buying an NFT?
Right. So it's very nice questions. I think it solely depends on how you design the game. I cannot speak for every other games out there since I do not know their game mechanism well. But for us, in order to make like the in-game economies driven by players, people have to have a stake in the games, and the transactions, the values must be created among the communities. So people need first to have a stake in the games in order for value to be initiated, and then it can be created further. Having free-to-play mechanism within Metaverse will break the entire kind of economy, since players can just join and harvest items and earn money from that. So there's no money being filled in to fuel the growth.
Okay.
You can think of it as I worked in as management consulting before, and my focus was on circular economy, right? And to start the value generations effect of a circular economy, you need to have an injection first. You have to have the resource pooling first, and then you can create more value from there. If there's no value being injected first, then you cannot start the loop basically.
Okay, it's a great reply, and I think it's from someone in the chat. So don't worry, please send your questions. It's never done. The purpose of those meetups are for that, so please send them. And just to come back, we will finish on play to earn, but I think there was a couple of questions actually on the NFT itself that David explained at the beginning, and the questions that comes back all the time, and we already explained it, but an NFT can easily be copied, right? The NFT, the image itself. So how do you come about the value? We talked about it at the beginning. It's about the certificates of ownership of this NFT. So it's the same thing as you copying a Da Vinci painting, right?
Yeah.
You don't own the real Da Vinci one. So the value of the Da Vinci one is actually related to the ownership of it.
Yeah, and I think
exactly
correct. Sorry.
Go ahead. David.
Yeah, I think connected to that, what people always ask is, okay, but it's ridiculous. They always say, I don't see any value in that. I think it's ridiculous for me to own something that can easily be copied, regardless of what. And you know what? And it's ridiculous to spend a lot of money in that. And you know what? I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But here's the thing. I agree with you, but I also think it's ridiculous to pay $100 million for a Picasso. Okay, for a Picasso, for an artwork by Picasso. And you know what? That's okay, because who am I and who are you? Who are we to decide what's valuable for other people that they are willing to spend money for? If they're willing to spend a lot of money simply for knowing that they own something, then let them. There are people like that. Collectors are like that. I've never understood the logic behind the value that collectors put on certain collectors' items, but there is a market for that, and there is value for that. So just because we don't find something logical, or just because there is no logical reason for value, doesn't mean that the value will disappear. So.
All right. So it was important to mention we had a couple of questions on this one, and I would like to take a question on Leo to finish on the play to earn side. Obviously, games like Axis have been increasing like dramatically crazy over these years, but it's still a small part of the gaming industry. I will be totally honest, the games so far are very in the early stage. Some are very basics, right? What do you think is the next step to go to this 1 billion users that we are talking about?
It's exactly like you said. The gaming right now is very basic. That's our thesis to mass adoptions is actually the gameplay. There's a purely a gap between traditional games and blockchain games. The game industry has existed for decades now, and the level of comprehensiveness, the level of the game title that they are launching out is awesome. And blockchain games need to catch up with that. And that's also why we choose the MMORPG genre to build. Since it provides a deep and engaging gameplay mechanics, there's a lot of things you can do inside the MMORPGs. And it also have the foundations to create a metaverse, which player can roam the world, they can own the asset, they can do transactions, they can basically choose and craft their own story in the games. And that's what we are hoping to achieve and catch up with in terms of adoptions and attract more traditional players onto blockchain game.
Yep, hopefully. Well, I think people are just a bit too early generally to judge. We are still at the very early beginning of those blockchain gaming. And there was questions on the chat, and because we touched about it, and can you explain me what is the metaverse?
Right. So is it going to be David or me?
Then go ahead, Leo, and then David might add something.
All right. So a simple way to explain metaverse is a virtual world that is an extension of the world that we are living in right now. So with that said, everything we have right now can be bringing onto the virtual world in a better way, right? We can have this conversation right now, but in the virtual world, it will be face to face. And that comes with, that basically removes a lot of friction of the physical world, where you can create better communications, we can create limitless experience for people, we can create new form of business, we can create new way of working, officeless company. And that is a beautiful thing. That is metaverse to us.
David, you want to add something?
Yeah, don't worry, Leo. Maxine, I'm not gonna lecture long on this. I won't even lecture, but if I could just share my screen.
Go ahead.
Show you an example of what Leo's talking about. So in the metaverse, you can, in addition to socializing within the metaverse like this, so this could be your mom, this could be your dad. Yes, your mom could have a male avatar, your dad could have a female avatar, and this could be you socializing. You can also, put virtual shops in the metaverse. You can go shopping in a metaverse mall. You can go shopping in the metaverse shop, and here you can buy stuff for yourself, for your character, or for yourself in the real world. So in the metaverse shop, you buy something to be delivered to your real house in Bangkok. You can order food here inside a metaverse shop, which will be delivered to your real house in Bangkok, for example. So yeah, so a metaverse is like what Leo said, it's a virtual world where you can exist, and the different properties within the metaverse are represented by NFTs. So to own this property or that property or this shoes or even this music, you can own the music, the rights to the music, you own the NFT to that.
And yeah. I have questions for you both. Did you heard about Second Life? It was something back 5 or 6 years ago, I remember, where you could do exactly that. Is it the metaverse? Was it the metaverse?
Yeah, Second Life is definitely metaverse. Metaverse is not limited to just it's not necessarily tied to blockchains, right?
Okay. So
you can any VR projects that create a world where people can interact with it. It can be metaverse. But right. Coming to that, with decentralization, with blockchains, you can now have the proof of ownership in the metaverse.
And right? that's the important part, where for people to understand what we are talking about, the link between blockchain cryptocurrencies are the NFTs, because now you can have certificate of ownership of whatever in the metaverse, right?
right?
Correct.
If you have that, then you can have business. You can have you can only with the proof of authenticity, you can start building up from there, right?
Okay.
Right.
So how is it going to change our life in the next 2 years?
Right. So a lot of the services right now can be offered on Metaverse, virtual exhibitions, concert, that sort of stuff, right? And that is the first thing that Metaverse is going to change is communications, is experience, is entertainment. And then the next thing that is going to change is how we work. With COVID, you have seen we have all work remotely, and there's a lot of solution for that. The gather, jams. With Metaverse, you can have direct conversation with your colleagues, but you guys are both at home, and there's no need for an office anymore. And that increase business efficiency in terms of capital. You don't need to pay for rent. And that is the most important thing that's going to change. It fundamentally change how we operate, how we do business, how we communicate and entertain ourselves.
Okay, building on to what Leo said what Leo said regarding the having it on the blockchain, and connected to what Maxime says regarding how is it going to change your life. Yes, you can have a metaverse which is not on the blockchain, but if it's, let's say for example, Facebook metaverse, what Facebook is trying to do. Let's say you own a house you pay for, you own a house within the Facebook metaverse, or let's just call it, David Book metaverse. If it is controlled by Mark Zuckerberg, or it's controlled by David, how can you really own the house? If Mark Zuckerberg bans you from Facebook or from the Facebook metaverse, or if David bans you from the David verse, you're going to lose your land, you're going to lose your stuff. But if the metaverse is built on top of a blockchain, a decentralized blockchain with no central corporation controlling it, then if you own it, you really own it. There's no central CEO who can just kick you out and say, I didn't like your political stance. You said something which I consider, it's not racist, but I consider it to be racist, so I'm shutting down your account. And then you lose everything, right? But if it's on a decentralized blockchain, that can't happen. You are on the blockchain. As long as you can connect to an Ethereum wallet or a Solana wallet and connect to the blockchain, it's yours, and it's really yours. Nobody can kick you out.
But so, can you explain me, will there be one metaverse or a multitude of
metaverses, of course, right? So right now the well-known ones are Sandbox and Decentraland, which are still in not really advanced stages of development. I'm very bullish on the Neo metaverse, which is not, because their coin hasn't pumped yet, but they seem to be very advanced. I don't know. We have Necoverse, right? That upcoming of Leo, and we have so many. There's Dope Wars. There's Native Gold. There's so many being built. So absolutely, there are many different metaverses and not just one metaverse.
Leo, can you tell me how many metaverse will we expect?
Well, there's no limit to the number of metaverse, right? It's as long as it's a world that provide people a place for them to communicate and for them to feel they belong to.
In fact, Elon Musk believes that we are already in a metaverse and we just don't know.
So let's go back in and let's imagine that, okay, so you have different metaverse. You can basically play a game, which will be part of a metaverse, or you can actually go to a shop that will create his own metaverse to sell his products, right? How will I be able to interact between the game, the shop, the concert, and whatever? Will it be through NFTs, or will it be like on a centralized blockchain or whatever? What do you think?
The mechanism is actually pretty easy. The switching is just like how you switch app, but it will be on Metaverse. The experience will be a little bit different. But then the asset is yours, right? And if you run a business using selling NFTs on Metaverse, then the NFTs are in your possessions, and you can port it to multiple Metaverse. So I don't think there will be a friction in terms of that. And to add on what David said earlier, decentralizations combined with Metaverse will allow, I would say, inclusivity. There's no discriminations. everybody can be anonymous and inclusive at the same time. Everybody has a fair chance to join the Metaverse and transact, freely purchase or buy what they want. And that is inclusivity for me.
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me well? Apparently I got disconnected. One sec. So let's say that today we are at the end of 2021. Play to earn has been rising this year. NFTs are the hot topics. What do you think is going to happen at the end of 2024, like 2 years from now? In December 2024, we do another meetup. I invite you both. Where do you expect us to be in the metaverse and on the NFT game?
Right. So for that, I hope that by 2024 we can meet up in Metaverse.
Good reply.
And by that time, I hope to be rich with a Necoverse token.
You have to compete with other players, though.
No, let's buy your currency.
All right. And I just would like to, before we go to a couple of questions, there was one quote from someone which is actually quite smart in the VC industry, who said that it's very hard to predict what the metaverse will be, because it's just like imagining what could be Snapchat at the beginning of the iPhone. The whole ecosystem needs to be created. You can't even imagine what's going to pop up in the next 1 or 2 years. So we are just at the beginning. And yeah, so you want to add something? Maybe I will go through some questions from the people.
I think that there's well, of course, there's some things we might be able to predict, but so many of the things we simply don't know. I mean, in the beginning of social media, we had no idea things would end up this way, you know, but it has. So there's so many different applications of social media now and sub applications. Same thing with the metaverse.
Can you expand on the social media one, because it's actually something that people are talking about, how it's going to change the way I'm interacting with my social media?
Okay, so first of all, I don't think that people were prepared, and some people still don't realize how there was such a big power shift because of social media. There was such a big power shift from marketers, professional marketers, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to brand reputation. There was so much power shift from the brand to the consumer. So before, the brands, you know, they controlled the message, the marketing message of brands. So we want to make we want the image of our chicken to be tasty, delicious, whatever. But in the end, nowadays the brands can no longer control the marketing message sent to people, because the message being sent to the consumers comes from other consumers. So there is such a big shift. I think a lot of people didn't expect that. And even until now, brands still think that they can control the message, not realizing that the messaging can no longer be simply from the brand to the consumer, but from consumers to consumers, and that brands are simply participating in the consumer's conversation. So the same thing with the metaverse. There are many things that we still don't know is going to happen. Yeah.
And maybe a question to Leo from the chat. Sorry. Should businesses change their marketing strategy to catch up with the metaverse trend? Where should they start?
For starters, they should understand NFTs and how the conversations is going up right now. Definitely, it's an opportunity for business. You have seen Nike and Adidas and Facebook jumping into the space. TikTok has also released NFTs. They understand the importance of getting in the message, getting in the conversation right now. I agree with David that the future for Metaverse is still at the early stage right now. There's a lot of things that we cannot predict, but it's important to lay out the first brick. And brands should recognize that this is a prime opportunities to participate in laying the first brick that might contribute to large futures and a fundamental change to society.
Thanks. David, you want to add something?
No, not really.
Okay.
You encapsulated it pretty well. Yeah.
And yeah, there is a question for you, Leo, and I think it's related to people who are starting like a new project into the blockchain industry. Do you have any advice for any project at the early stage, and how would you get started? And maybe you can give your own experience.
Right. So my advice, I'll probably share the story about how we grow a Nicoverse. We are still actually at the very stage of Nicoverse, but we are very fortunate to have a very strong communities. We have grown to 42,000 members in our Discord in the last month. So that's a very fast growth. And the one thing that we learned along the way is that be very honest to your communities and be very supportive. What important is spreading the good vibe, the positive vibe within the communities, so they can support each other. Right now, as I'm talking to you guys, a lot of our community members are still supporting each other within the Discord, and that is the most beautiful thing for me when I see and grow and participating in these journeys. It's all about the communities, so you must take care of that.
All right. Okay, so it's a good one, and I agree with you. And yeah, maybe I go through a last question in the chat. We have 2 minutes. There was someone who was addressing what I was mentioning about people in Philippines earning more on play to earn, leaving their jobs. He was mentioning that you have to consider it that sometimes it's to do overtime and to earn more. We might not be at this drastic change so far of people quitting every job to go to play on the metaverse, but it's likely that at some point it's going to become a job, basically, to play those games. And you will build strategies, you will build team, you will hire people to basically play for you and have a guild, right? This is what we mentioned, right?
Right.
So it's already happening. I think the great things that we have seen in the blockchain space for the past 3 years, so 3 years anniversary of this meetup, so I can see, I couldn't imagine how fast the space has been growing. And I couldn't imagine that we will be talking about NFTs in this way, like just 3 years after that. So just look at what's going on. Leo, maybe you can mention where can we reach out. I think you mentioned Discords. Maybe you can give the link to the chat if people wants to be part of the Nicoverse family.
Right. I can also have the link to our Discord channel. These are main channels, and everybody, we want to be very focused in terms of the conversations. So we roll on Discord as the main channels.
All right, and let me just copy. I'm not sure it was sent to the world, but I will do it right now. David, you want to share your channel as well?
Well, my channel it's very easy to remember anyway. You just go to YouTube, you just look for mbabullshit.com, but it's nothing about crypto, at least not for now, although I plan to pivot that to crypto. But anyway, so you can just might as well type it anyway.
All right.
Just search for that on YouTube, and you'll but it's not about cryptocurrency. Although it will be soon. I will be pivoting.
You will jump on the wagon.
It's a traditional finance tutorial channel.
All right, and yeah, it's 7. It's been already 1 hour, and I don't want to keep you too much. I hope you guys actually learned something tonight. Thanks a lot, Leo. Thanks a lot, David, for your time and for sharing your experience and talking about NFTs, play to earn, and the metaverse. We do those meetups every month. If you want to talk about your project, if you want if you have topics that you want us to share, please feel free to reach out to me. You can go on Meetup, Bangkok Blockchain, or you can just go on Atato Facebook page or LinkedIn. You will find me easily. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us, to talk to the Bangkok and Southeast Asian community. And yes, I wish you good luck in the metaverse and to try to focus on the right NFTs. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I see you next month then.